Welcome back to today's video. In today's video, I'm making my prediction for the 2024 election based off of polling data and early voting that has already begun, and combined with my own personal opinion. And so before today's video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and like the video for more content just like this. And so we're taking a look at the 2024 electoral map, specifically some of the polling. And so what I have right now is I basically have all of the states, the swing states, the lean states, all of the states combined. And what I have basically done is, for this, is that I have collected the 2020 polling results, and I have taken the 2020 results and collected a margin of error. And so taking a look at this, we have our swing states right over here. We have the swing states of Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and North Carolina. And so what I've basically done is I've taken how big of a margin that Joe Biden was leading in these particular states in the 2020 polling and have compared them to the 2020 results. And so in the state of Wisconsin in the 2020 polling, you saw that Biden was ahead by 6.7 percentage points. In the state of Michigan, he was ahead by 4.2 percentage points. In the state of Pennsylvania, it was negative 1 percentage points. And then in the state of Arizona, 0.9 percentage points. Nevada, 2.4 percentage points. And then in the state of North Carolina, negative 0.2 percentage points. Now, when I say a negative 1 percentage point, what that basically means is that Trump is leading in that state in the polling aggregate. So, for example, in Georgia, Biden was leading by negative 1 percentage points. That means that Trump was leading by 1 percentage points. So that's what I do when I mean negative. It's just easier for me to put negative or positives just due to the fact that it's easier when I'm doing some of the calculations. It's easier when I'm just doing it in terms of negatives and positives. And then I compare them to 2020 results. So in the state of Wisconsin, the polling data had Biden ahead by 6.7%. He only ended up winning by 0.6%. In the state of Michigan, Biden was ahead in the polls by 4.2%. He ended up winning by 2.8 percentage points. In the state of Pennsylvania, Biden was ahead by 1.2 percentage points. He ended up winning by 1.2 percentage points. In the state of Georgia, Biden was behind, hence Trump was ahead by 1 percentage point. He ended up winning that state by 0.2 percentage points. And then what I've done with this polling data is I've collected a margin of error using a simple formula called B4 minus BC. And what this equation does basically is it subtracts the polling results, polling error, the polling in general, and minusing it from the 2020 results margin to give us a margin of error for how accurate the polls were. So in the state of Wisconsin, you can see that the polling data overestimated Joe Biden by 6.1%. In the state of Michigan, it overestimated Joe Biden by 1.4%. In the state of Pennsylvania, it was accurate. In the state of Georgia, it overestimated Trump because due to the fact that there's a negative symbol, that means it overestimated Trump by 1.2%. In the state of Arizona, 0.6% overestimated Joe Biden. In the state of Nevada, it was dead on accurate with a 0% margin of error. In the state of North Carolina, overestimated overestimated Biden by 1.1 percentage points. And so what I've done with this polling data right here, this margin of error, is I have subtracted that from the 2024 polling data that we're currently seeing. So right now, as you take a look at all the polls that right here, you can see that all the polls are negative. What that means is that Trump is leading in all the polls here. So in the state of Wisconsin, Trump's currently leading by 0.2 percentage points. In the state of Michigan, 1.2 percentage points. In the state of Pennsylvania, 0.8 percentage points. In Georgia, 1.8 percentage points. In Arizona, Trump's leading by 1.6 percentage points. In Nevada, currently 0.8 percentage points. And in the state of North Carolina, 0.5 percentage points. And this is all from the RCP aggregate. So if you take a look at the state of Wisconsin right now, Trump's currently ahead by 0.2 percentage points. Therefore, we have a negative 0.2 to show that Kamala Harris, in this case, the Democratic nominee, is ahead by negative 0.2 percentage points, which means that Trump's ahead by 0.2 percentage points. And then what we do with that information is we apply a 2020 margin of error to these polls. And what we do is we get the projected 2024 margin of victory in each state. And so what we have here is that if the polling error is the same, so basically with this entire model that I have right here, this model basically is projecting how big of a margin of victory it is for every single state. So I have this done for every single state. So as you can see here, every single state I've done this besides Nebraska and Maine. But besides that, you can see here, this is the projected margin of victory if the polling data follows the 2024 aggregate. And so what we would have here is we would see Trump winning by yes. So we would have, let's take a look at this. All right, good. So we would have Trump winning by 6.3 percentage points in the state of Wisconsin. Trump winning by 2.6 percentage points in the state of Michigan. Trump winning by 0.8 percentage points in the state of Pennsylvania, 0.6 percentage points in the state of Georgia, 2.2 percentage points in the state of Arizona, and 0.8 percentage points in the state of Nevada, 1.6 percentage points in the state of North Carolina. This entire model is based on the fact that this entire projected margin of victory is based on the fact that if the margin of error in the 2020 election, if that follows the 2024 polling, this is how big of a margin Trump would win in each of the states. And so that's how it would be like. So you would simply see Trump here 6.3 percentage points in the lead here for each of these states. And we have done this for basically every single states here. You can see here, for example, in Minnesota, if we were to apply that 2020 margin of error, Kamala Harris would end up winning in this state by 7.5 percentage points, 5.2 percentage points, negative 15 percentage points, she would end up winning by 6.2 percentage points, 5.3 percentage points. In Ohio, if you follow a 2020 margin of error, Trump would end up winning by 14 percentage points. And I've done this for basically every single state. And so this is how it would look like. But let's take a look at the current polling data, because currently the polling data shows Trump ahead in all 7 swing states. We have Trump ahead in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina. Now, Virginia is also, I believe, a swing state. And currently, if you take a look at the polling data right now, currently I do believe that Donald Trump, Virginia is one of the swing states. That being said, if you apply a 2020 margin of error to these polls, Kamala Harris would end up winning the state of Virginia by 5.2 percentage points. Similar with Colorado, Kamala Harris would end up winning the state by 15 percentage points if you follow that margin of error. So that's for some of these states here. But as you can see, Trump is leading in all of these swing states. Now, I do think that Virginia is also one of the swing states as well. But Kamala Harris, according to this, is leading by 5.2 percentage points. And so this is how basically the entire projected margin of victory based on 2020 margin of error. So currently Trump's ahead in all the polls right now in all the states. And if you apply a 2020 margin of victory, Trump still ends up winning in all of these swing states as well. Now the question is the polling data going to follow a 2020 margin of error? That's really the question. And you can accept this model or not accept this model based on whether or not you think the margin of victory is going to be similar to 2020. Now let's take a look here at some of the early voting. So currently in the early voting, you can see here that approximately 14 million people have cast early voting. Now this is very interesting here. The number of early voting has actually increasing by around 1.5 million voters per day, approximately. At least from my analysis, it's about 1.5 million voters have been voting more every single day. And so taking a look at this, currently we have Republicans out of all the mail-in votes. Now remember, mail-in votes do tend to favor Democrats. Currently, 36% of those people are registered Republicans, 46% of them are registered Democrats, 18% of them are registered as independent, unaffiliated, Green Party, etc. And so taking a look at this right now, currently, again, remember, early voting does favor Democrats. Currently, Republicans in the state of Georgia are ahead by 5 percentage points with 1.4 million votes already in. Now, taking a look at this in the 2020 general election, I have a map here that basically goes over all the early voting. So the entire early voting that was cast. In the state of Georgia, once all the early votes were counted, 4 million voters approximately voted through early voting in 2020. Now, currently, right now, we have approximately 1.4 million. So if you base it off of 2020, we still need about 2.6 million voters to still go out and vote. 2.6 million voters left to go out and vote. Now, obviously, I think that early voting in 2020 was a little bit higher due to the fact that many people did mail-in voting and stuff like that. But really, I think there's going to be an extra approximately, I think, about an extra 1 million, 2 million people are going to vote in the state of Georgia. Republicans are seeming to do pretty good in the state of Georgia. Black turnout is down 10% in the state of Georgia. I don't believe it's across the board, or I think that it's across the border. I'm not exactly sure by that, but I believe it's down 10% in one of the states, I believe, or I'm not exactly sure with that statistic. It's down 10% somewhere, I believe, in the state of Georgia or at large. That's good news for the Republicans, bad news for the Democrats. In the state of North Carolina, Republicans here currently are 34% of the votes currently registered Republicans. 35% of the registered party registration is Democrat. Now, just to make sure you guys note this, party registration does not necessarily mean that you're going to be voting for a candidate. So just because you're a registered Republican does not necessarily mean you're going to be voting for Donald Trump. A good example of this is, for instance, let's take a state, for instance, in the Senate, like Montana. Jon Tester won in 2012, where John Tester was a Democrat in 2012, won in the state of Montana by approximately 3 percentage points, yet Obama lost that state by 13 percentage points. In that particular scenario, you may have seen a lot of registered Republicans in 2012 who may have voted for Mitt Romney, but may have also voted for Jon Tester, who was a Democrat. That's about approximately a 16-point margin of difference there between the general election candidate and the Senate election candidate that almost really the same voters voted for. And so that's very interesting there. So just because they're a registered Republican, just because Republicans are leading in the state of Georgia by 5% in the party registration, does not necessarily mean that they're going to win. All the people who voted, who were registered Republicans, voted for Donald Trump. Also, other is 5 percentage points unaffiliated or you would say independents or whatever you want to call them. Whatever group they're in. And so you see them for each individual state. Instead of Utah, 55% Republican, as you would expect, only 12,000 votes in. And so you see here for some other states here, for instance, let's take a look at the state of Michigan. You can see here Donald Trump here, 36% registered Republicans. Again, that does not necessarily mean they're voting for Donald Trump. It could just mean they're voting for a different Senate candidate. And obviously, each individual makes their own decision. In the state of Iowa, we have 43% registered Democrats, 40% registered Republicans here in this particular state. And so you can see all of this data. I will put the link for this article in the description below. And as you can see all of this information right here. And so this is for some of the early voting. Now, you could see here, let me take a look at the early voting dates. And I'll put this link in the description below as well. Let me just go ahead and refresh this really quick. Okay, good. So we have all this information here. Let me just refresh the early voting really quickly. All right. So look, yeah, similar thing. Okay, good. So early voting dates. So currently here, as you can see here, if you live in any of the states, and it's very important that you vote in this election. So I'm gonna put the link for this description for this article in the link in the description below. And so what this basically does is it tells when the early voting begins. So you can plan out when to vote. And so it says here when the early voting day starts and when the early voting ends. So when it ends and begins. And it gives you the source for each of them where they're getting this information from. And so I'll put the link for this article in the description below. As you can see here, majority of these places, they October 21st, October 9th, October 21st, in each individual state. It obviously varies for each state. Some states have no early voting. For instance, Alabama does not have early voting. Other states, for instance, like Mississippi, the Mississippi runoff race, New Hampshire has no early voting. You also have other states, for instance, that's about it actually. But those are some of the states that you don't have early voting. But for majority of the states, you could early vote. And so it's very important that you early vote or you vote on election day, whatever you want to do. But I will put the link for this article in the description below. And so that's for some of the information here. Let's take a look here. Currently here, let's take a look at some of the lean states as well that I want to take a look at. Currently, Kamala Harris is winning in a lot of the lean states. You can see in Minnesota, obviously, she's winning by 4.7. Let me take a look at this for a second time here. Yeah, so Kamala Harris is leading by 4.7 percentage points. In Virginia, 6.4 percentage points, 11 percentage points in the state of Colorado, 8 percentage points in the state of New Mexico, 7.8 percentage points in the state of New Hampshire. Ohio, Trump's leading by 7 percentage points, which if you apply 2020 margin of error, he wins by 14 percentage points. And if you take a look at the state of, you take a look at another state, for example, Colorado, Kamala is currently leading by 11 percentage points, yet the polls, if you were to apply a 2020 margin of error, what you would end up seeing is that Kamala Harris would end up winning in the state by 15 percentage points as well. In Texas and Florida, you can see Republicans here coming back in Florida with a 7.3 percentage point lead in the polling. If you apply 2020 margin of error, that would give Trump with a 11.6% lead there in that particular state there. So these are for some of the states here. And so let's take a look here at some of the Senate elections. Sorry, not some Senate elections. But let's take a look at the 538 projection. So currently the 538 map here. Currently they have Harris at a 50% chance of winning the election. Donald Trump at a 50% chance of winning the election. Now, for quite some time, their model did have a very, very clear sign of Kamala Harris winning in the win probability here. Since about August 8, really, they had Kamala Harris in the favor to win the election. And that continued on until really about October 19, really. So for really the past 2 months, they've been having Kamala Harris at approximately over 50% chance of winning the election. Only more recently here, they see here that you had Donald Trump here at approximately 50% chance of winning the election. Now, before they had Donald Trump at as high as 54% in July, end of July. And so you see how that really changed in the dynamic of this race, now showing Donald Trump and Kamala Harris tied here. And so we take a look here at some of the forecasts here. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this here. I believe I was looking at the wrong thing there. This is actually what their current model is. I'm sorry about that. I made a little bit of a mistake there. This is their current margin. I was in the wrong tab there. I think I was looking at something else previously. But this is their current model here. So Donald Trump, 52% chance of winning the election. Kamala Harris had 48% chance of winning the election. So sorry about that. This is their current model. I made a bit of a mistake there. So this is what their current model is. And as you can see, as I already showed here, you can see here that Donald Trump here, since August 8th all the way up till about October 17th, you can see that he was behind. Yet now she is currently in the lead in some of the polls. It went as high as giving Kamala Harris a 64% chance of winning the election. Currently, the popular vote, 538's aggregate does show Kamala Harris with a 2 percentage point lead. In the electoral vote, Donald Trump here leading in the electoral vote, 272 electoral votes compared to Kamala Harris, 268 electoral votes. As you can see, the model has been changing over time. Let's take a look at the state probabilities here. Now, for these state probabilities in the state of Wisconsin, currently it's a tie. In the state of Michigan, Kamala Harris has 53% chance of winning the election. In the state of Pennsylvania, Trump is currently 51% chance of winning. In the state of North Carolina, Trump had a 58% chance of winning. Georgia, 63% chance of winning. Arizona, 63% chance of winning. And in the state of Nevada, 48% chance of winning. They're in those particular states there. And so this is what their current aggregate is. Now, if you take a look at Pennsylvania polling, and by the way, all the polls that I have here as far as the 2024 polling, how much it shows Donald Trump ahead, all of this polling data is from the RCP aggregate. So let's take a look at this here. The RCP aggregate right over here. And I will put the link for this map in the link in the description below here, as well as where you can get this information from. Now let's take a look at some of the 538 polling. So 538 polling, and it would be actually a nice idea if any of you guys want to do this. You could basically I might put the link for this particular Excel sheet in the link in the description below. So I'll put the link for this Excel sheet in the link in the description below. But if you guys want to make your own model for 538's model, that would be actually really nice, because you could really compare here. If you take a look at the forecast here, let's take a look at 538's polling, and it's very easy to get their polling data. Let me go ahead and show you where to get their polling data. So if you get their polling data here, this is their current polling data, and you can go from the national to each of the individual states. You could really create a model here that compares how accurate 538 was in 2020 to RCP. And if you do this, you will find that RCP, one of the reasons why I use RCP is because RCP, Real Clear Politics, is much more accurate than the 538 model. In 2020, they were much more accurate, as well as, I'm not sure in 2016, but in 2020, they were much more accurate. And so you could really do that and apply a 2020 margin of error to the 2024 polls for the RS538 aggregate and see how that compares to the RCP aggregate. RCP will, I believe, be more accurate even for the general election results. And so when you take a look at this here, currently you have Kamala Harris in the national polls ahead by 1.8 percentage points. Let's take a look at the individual states here. In the state of Arizona here, currently they have Donald Trump ahead by 1.8 percentage points. If you take a look at RCP in the state of Arizona, they have Kamala Harris ahead by Donald Trump ahead by 1.6 percentage points, similar to 538 in the state of Arizona. And as far as the general election results, I could see RCP being a little bit off from this election. I think 538 might be more accurate, but for previous elections, they were more accurate. And then for another state here, for the state of Georgia, currently you have Donald Trump ahead by 1.8 percentage points. 538 has Donald Trump ahead by 1.8 percentage points as well in the state of Georgia. And then you take a look at the state of, moving on from there, let's take a look at the state of Nevada. In the state of Nevada, they have Kamala Harris ahead by 0.5 percentage point. RCP currently has Donald Trump ahead by 0.8 percentage points. And then if you take a look at the state of Michigan, 538 currently has Kamala Harris ahead by 0.2 percentage points. In the state of Michigan, currently RCP has Donald Trump ahead by 1.2 percentage points in the state of Michigan. Moving on from the state of Michigan, let's take a look at the state of North Carolina. Donald Trump's currently ahead by 0.5 percentage points. In the RCP aggregate, they have Donald Trump ahead by 0.5 percentage points as well. So you can see how this polling data really does align very nicely here with as far as their model. Now, obviously, these pollsters do pick and choose which polls they want to use here. So, for example, here you can see 538 is making some good decisions by using Atlas Intel polls. Atlas Intel polls, if you do know some of the things about Atlas Intel, is a very accurate polling site, and I will put the link for their website in the link in the description below. And so Atlas Intel polls, if you take a look at it historically, it has been very accurate throughout many elections, throughout history. It has been very accurate in many other countries across the world and in the United States as well. And so they are very accurate when you take a look at majority of their polling sites. They have been very accurate, and they are showing some interesting news, especially with some of the more recent polling data. Let me just go ahead and show you some of their more recent polling data. So in the state of Wisconsin, if you take a look at Alice Intel, Kamala Harris is ahead by 1% in the most recent Alice Intel poll. In Nevada, Kamala Harris is currently tied with Donald Trump. In the state of Michigan, currently Donald Trump in the most recent Alice Intel poll is ahead by 3% in the state of Michigan. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump is ahead by 3 percentage points in the latest Alice Intel poll. Trafalgar also has them ahead, which Trafalgar almost always has them ahead. And then in the state of Georgia, Alice Intel polls do show Donald Trump ahead by 2 percentage points. So now with all this information that we have collected, let's take a look at my 538, my projection here for the 2024 election. And so we're going to do this relatively quickly due to the fact that we have gone over a lot of data, and I'm going to kind of interpret this data however I want to interpret the data. And so, again, I'm not using a blanket projection. I'm not, basing my entire thing off of a very hidden model that I'm using or anything like that. But this is how I'm going to be doing this prediction right now. And so I'm going to be giving the states of Texas and the state of Florida likely. And then in the state of Utah, I'm going to be giving it as being safe. Illinois is in the safe column, likely column. Then the first state of Vermont, Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, D.C., Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, New Hampshire. And then we're going to go and give Donald Trump here the state of Iowa and the state of Ohio. We're going to give Donald Trump your main Nebraska's at-large, Nebraska's first congressional district. Kamala Harris, the main at-large vote in the likely column, and then the main second congressional district here in the likely column, as well as Maine's first congressional district in the safe column. And so we're going to give Kamala Harris here the states of Colorado and New Mexico here, both in the Colorado in the likely margin and the state of New Mexico in the likely margin. And then we're going to take a look at the state of Minnesota. I'm going to go and give it to Kamala Harris in the lean margin. And then for the state of Virginia, I am going to go ahead and give the state in the lean margin for Kamala Harris as well here in the lean margin. And so that's for the state of Virginia. Moving on from now, let's take a look at the state of Wisconsin. I'm going to go and give it to Donald Trump in the tilt margin, Michigan in the tilt margin, and the state of Pennsylvania in the tilt margin, as well as the state of North Carolina as well in the tilt margin, Georgia in the tilt margin, Arizona, I'm going to go and put it right now in the lean margin, and then the state of Nevada in the tilt margin. And so this is my projection as of right now. Donald Trump at 312 electoral votes, Kamala Harris at 225 electoral votes. If you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and like the video for more content just like this. And so we are approaching the election day, guys. We are approximately 2 weeks away from the election day. As of the time you're recording this video, it is October 20th, 2024. We are exactly 15. Sorry, not 15. We are we are approximately 16 days away from the election. 16 days away from the election, approximately 2 weeks away from the election. Now, next week, next Saturday, I will be uploading another video, another projection, seeing how this exactly changes. I'm going to be looking at more statistics. I'm really gearing up for this election. I want to make sure my prediction is accurate because I know that once I make my final prediction, if I'm inaccurate, that's a very bad thing on my side. So I want to make sure I'm going to be accurate. And I want to do something similar to like a CNN type election for my final prediction. So this is for my final prediction. I'm going to be releasing my final prediction 2 days before the election. I know some individuals have decided to release their final prediction very early for some places. For example, I know Precision Politics has released his final prediction for the Senate. He released it a couple days, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago for the Senate. He released his final prediction. And so I don't want to be too confident. I want to, wait it out. I don't want some crazy news. One of the things that I don't want to see is I don't want to have some crazy news come out like 3 days before the election and that changes the entire race dynamic. But then unfortunately me, who predicted the election ahead of time, is like, oh no, I didn't count for this particular accident that occurred. And so this is obviously the month of October. We have 2.5 weeks left basically. And so anything can really happen. And so I don't want to make my final prediction right now. And then lo and behold, some crazy October surprise happens that shifts the entire race. And then I'm in a very bad position because I didn't account for that in my, in my model, that not model, but in what I was doing. And so that's what basically, that's why I'm releasing my prediction 2 days before the election. The election's on Tuesday. I'm going to be releasing my final prediction 2 weeks from now on Sunday. So exactly 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be releasing my final prediction for the 2024 election. 2 days before the election, I'm going to be releasing my final prediction. Write down in the comment section whether or not you think who's going to win this election as well, how many electoral votes you think each candidate is going to win, how accurate you think all these statistics that are coming in, how accurate they're going to be with regards to the polling data, whether or not you agree or disagree. Also, make sure you do go out and vote. Again, the early voting, I will put the link for the description for when early voting begins and ends. But if you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and like the video, and I'll see you in the next video.